for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Colorado Rockies. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Friday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, opening up a long homestand and beginning with the Colorado Rockies. The Dodgers come off the road trip, 6 games behind the Giants. They're over in Arizona to play 3, and then when the Rockies leave, they will play San Francisco. The Dodgers have split 6 against the Rockies, but here at Dodger Stadium, the Dodgers have been playing exceptionally well. They've won 14 out of 17 and 6 in a row. As you know, I'm sure, Clayton Kershaw went on the DL, the 18th Dodger to go on that list. And tonight we find out Jock Peterson also goes on the DL, the 19th Dodger. Tonight, interestingly enough, Bud Norris will be on the mound for the Dodgers. The last time we saw Norris, he lost to Clayton Kershaw 4-0. And all of a sudden, here he is replacing Kershaw and going to the mound against Colorado. He was 3-7 with Atlanta. However, 2-1 in his last 5 starts, 1-1 lifetime with the Rockies. For Colorado, they'll have Jorge De La Rosa. He has a record of 5-4, but don't be misled. 4-0 in his last 6 starts, 7-11 lifetime against the Dodgers. So those are the numbers. Pull up a chair, spend the holiday weekend with us, and we'll get back with the ball game and a whole lot more right after this. And a very pleasant Friday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, ready to break the seal on one of the longest homestands of the year, beginning with Colorado and ending up next Sunday against San Diego. And, of course, there's always something different about the Dodgers, and tonight, another amazing story. The last time we saw Bud Norris, he was pitching for Atlanta against Clayton Kershaw, and he lost 4-0. And now Bud Norris goes to the mound, replacing Clayton Kershaw, pitching for the Dodgers and trying to beat the Colorado Rockies. Bud Norris is from Green Bay, California. That's where he was born. Lives in Novato. He's an even 6, about 220. He is 31 years old and was originally signed by the Houston Astros at a Cal Poly State University in the 6th round back in 2006. So he's not only been with the Astros, he was with the Orioles, had his finest year with the Orioles when he was 15-8. Finished up with the Padres and the Braves, and here he is tonight. We can take a look now at the Rockies lineup going up against him. Charlie Blackmon will start it off. Christian Adames will be at short. Nolan Arenado will be at third, and Carlos Gonzalez in right field. Mark Reynolds will be at first. Daniel Descalso at second. Nick Hundley batting seventh behind the plate. Brandon Barnes in left field, and the pitcher, Jorge De La Rosa. One of the things about Bud Norris you might be interested to know, his number as he joins the club. Well, he's wearing number 28. That brings back a lot of memories for the old-timers. Preacher Row in Brooklyn. Out here, Wes Parker, Pedro Guerrero, Dave Hansen, Lenny Harris, Cal Daniels, Corey Snyder, and Todd Hollinsworth all wore 28, and now it's worn by Bud Norris. So Bud, who picked up that nickname, the story goes, he went into a restaurant with his family. The adults were ordering beverages, and when they came to little David Norris, they said, "Well, son, what would you like?" And he had heard all the grown-ups, and he said, "I'll have a Bud." Well, it broke up the table, and he's been Bud ever since. Meanwhile, Charlie Blackmon will start it off, and the left-hand hitter takes low, ball 1-0. For Blackmon, good all-around ball player, fine center fielder, a lot of speed, and can do a lot of things with the bat. The 1-0 pitch on the way to Charlie, swung on, high fly ball into right center. Looking up into that bright blue sky is Trace Thompson, and makes the catch for the out. So with one away, we can take a look at the Dodgers with the leather. Gonzalez and Utley, Seager and Turner, Kendrick, Thompson and Puig, with Grandal behind the plate. So Blackmon a fly ball, one away. Meanwhile, a report over in Arizona. Paul Goldschmidt single homer run. Wellington Castillo homered for the other with a man aboard. So Cueto down 3-0. The Giants have gotten one back, and they're in the second inning. Diamondbacks 3 and the Giants 1. Norris ready and delivers. Fastball away. Ball 1. Christian Adames, the shortstop. Actually, there are two members missing from the cast. You would expect to see LeMahieu playing second base and Story at short. Broken back, ground ball to Utley. He gets it over to first. The bat flying way back into the stand, and just like that, 2 down. The report, LeMahieu has a bruised knee, and Story, who has 19 home runs, hit by a pitch, has a finger bruise and unable to answer the bell tonight. 2 down. Nolan Arenado checking in with 2 out and the bases empty. We'll watch that Diamondback game. Arenado, right-hand batter checking in, a wizard with the glove and a remarkable hitter. He has a 12-game hitting streak, 21 home runs, 65 runs batted in, and a hair under 300. So Arenado checks in, and the first pitch to Nolan in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Arenado figures to own the Gold Glove. He's won 3 straight at third base. Of course, he got his names in the headlines back in 2014 when he had a 28-game hitting streak. Nolan out of Newport Beach and lives over in Lake Forest, and takes one on the inside corner for a strike. So he's in a hole 0-2. Arenado, when he got a Gold Glove as a rookie, that really brought everybody's attention. He's quite a talented player. He takes low. Certainly he had a fine teacher when he first came up to play third base. Just to his left was Troy Tulowitzki. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Nolan Arenado. 6'1", 210, and only 25 years old. Norris ready, and the 1-2 pitch is swung on and missed. Down goes Arenado, and down go the Rockies. 1, 2, 3. So a nice first inning for Bud Norris. And at the end of half an inning, no score. Inning here at Dodger Stadium. It is a beautiful summer's night, 73 degrees, a powder blue sky overhead, nice crowd on hand, and we'll take a look now at the Dodger lineup. It reads as follows: Chase Utley at second base, Corey Seager at short, Justin Turner at third, Adrian Gonzalez hits cleanup at first, Howie Kendrick in left, Yasiel Puig in right, Trace Thompson in center, Yasmani Grandal behind the plate, and Bud Norris on the mound. On the mound, certainly no stranger to us. He's been around a while. Jorge Alberto de la Rosa out of Monterrey, Mexico. Lives in San Nicolas, Mexico. Originally drafted by the Diamondbacks out of the Mexican League back in 1998. He had Tommy John surgery in 2011, and he hasn't pitched much this year because he had a strained groin that sidelined him for late in April, just about through month of May. So he's certainly been around a while, and as far as he is concerned, this long, glorious career, his best year, 16-6 with the Rockies. He was also 16-9. Chase Utley checks in. First ball swinging, low fly ball to left, and backhanded on the dead run by Brandon Barnes. Nice play by the left fielder. 1 pitch and 1 away. Coming up now, Corey Seager, who is red hot. In fact, he right now comes up to the plate with a 13-game hitting streak. Arenado has 12 straight. Brian Dozier 12. Jason Kipnis 12. Seeing Cleveland up there reminds us the Indians won today over the Blue Jays in 19 innings. The Indians have won 14 in a row. Seager, meanwhile, takes a curveball for a strike, and the count 0-1. So Corey, who has just done more than can possibly be expected, 17 home runs, 40 RBIs, hitting .296, tied up but holds back on a slow breaking ball, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Jorge De La Rosa from Mexico, so naturally he was influenced by Fernando Valenzuela. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way. Jorge deals. It swung on and missed. 1-2. De La Rosa and Fernando Valenzuela were teammates with Hermosillo of the Mexican League back in 2001 and 2. Jorge said he listened intently to anything Fernando had to say. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Corey Seager. Seager waiting. De La Rosa turns, comes back, and it's on the outside corner with a fastball for strike 3 call. So Seager caught looking, 2 down, and the batter now will be Justin Turner.
Justin Turner.
De La Rosa, by the way, has always pitched well in Colorado, which seems like a backwards thought. He struggles on the road. So now he'll be facing Justin Turner. Turner slowly but surely building up the average to 254. For a little more than 2 weeks now, he's hit about almost 370. 6 home runs and 18 runs batted in. De La Rosa ready, delivers, fastball in for a strike. One of the things De La Rosa is doing, and I had read that he had given it up, he has been hesitating. In other words, he'll turn and just pause for a brief second. We'll see if he does it again if you're watching. There it is. And he comes back with a fastball low, 1-1. Well, I had just finished reading how he had given up that pause, and he's back to doing it. And pitching very well, I might add. In his last 6 starts, 4-1 against the Dodgers. His 1-1 pitch on the way. Jorge deals, and that's low, ball 2, 2-1. So Justin Turner, who's always been a big man in the Dodger plans, has done a complete turnaround. First 39 games, he hit 233. The last 37, 275, and 10 home runs. With the first 39, he had 1. 2-1 pitch is swung on line to left center. There's Barnes and makes a one-hand catch. So Brandon Barnes handles 2 out there in left field. Nice play by the young left fielder. And at the end of an inning, no score. In the ball game, Bud Norris made 8 pitches. Jorge De La Rosa made 9. And into the second inning, starting off with Carlos Gonzalez. So Bud Norris facing Gonzalez, who has hurt him in the past. Gonzalez 4 for 11 with a double. Carlos Gonzalez is an outstanding player, and yet the last time that Colorado was here, he played as bad a series as we could possibly imagine. I mean, he's a remarkable player. He takes high, ball 1. Carlos hitting .329, 18 home runs, 51 runs batted in. How dare I say He had a terrible series. Well, you understand. Swings, doesn't get it. Not only did he only go 1 for 12, he struck out in that series 10 times. In fact, he saw 62 pitches in the series and put only 2 of them in play. And we're talking about an all-star, an outstanding player. Here's the 1-1 pitch taken for a strike, and the count 1-2. So we certainly expect more from Carlos Gonzalez, not to mention what the Rockies expect. He'll be followed by Reynolds and then Descalso. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way, swung on and foul back. 1-2 the count to Carlos Gonzalez. Gonzalez, a pedigree. Everything about him has been an all-star. A lot of gold gloves. He's hit for the cycle. Got his name in the history book with the great Johnny Mize. But he's always seemed to struggle here at Dodger Stadium. 1-2 pitch on the way, swung on and foul back. So Bud Norris making his debut as a Dodger. He's been with the Astros, with Baltimore. He was with the Padres when Dave Roberts was the bench coach, so they know each other well. And I'm pretty sure he's very friendly with Casey Fine. Casey, as the pitch to Gonzalez, has swung on and missed. And for Carlos Gonzalez, here we go again as he strikes out. One away. Say, when you think of 4th of July, you think of America's favorite pastime, Dodger baseball and fireworks. So celebrate both of them with the Orioles here and enjoy a postgame fireworks show courtesy of Hawaiian Springs Water. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Casey Fien and Bud Norris were both at Cal Polytech at the same time. They might have been roommates. And the first pitch to Reynolds swung on and missed. 0-1. Reynolds 2 for 9 against Norris in the past. That's a .222 batting average. Bud comes back 0-1, gets it on the outside corner. 0-2 the count. Norris way back 2009 Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year. Everything about him told people he'd be a big leaguer. The next pitch is in there, strike 3 call. So Bud Norris has struck out 3 in a row. 2 down in the second inning. And the batter is Daniel Descalso. And if there's one man in the lineup to give Norris a bad time, it would be Descalso. He is 8 for 21. That would be a .381 batting average. He has 5 doubles, a triple, and a home run, all against Norris. Last week, he's been hitting out of sight. So Descalso, left-hand batter. Norris delivers, low, ball 1, 1-0. Descalso, of course, first time you hear the name, if you've been following baseball at all, you immediately think of the St. Louis Cardinals. He was with them for about 5 years. The next pitch swung on. Yeah, he's at it again. Line drive, base hit to left field. So let's see. Descalso is now 9 for 22 against Bud Norris. And with 2 out, Nick Hundley coming up. Nick Hundley just 1 for 10 against Norris. Catcher hitting .243, has hit safely 7 of the last 9. Standing over there at first base, Descalso 9 for 22. That means he's hitting .409 against Bud Norris. So not a bad man to have in there to play for the banged up LeMahieu. The first pitch high, 1 ball and no strikes. The Rockies on the road have held their own within their division. They're in the Western Division. Walt Weiss's team 11-8 on the road. But against all the other teams on the road, 8-13. 1-0 pitch on the way, off speed and for a strike, and the count 1-1. Nick Hundley, formerly with the Padres. signed a 2-year deal with the Rockies last year and this. The 1-1 pitch of the right-hand hitting catcher swung on and fouled back, and the count 1-2. Nicholas Hundley. He played on a 12-year-old team in Santa Clarita Mudcats, and a couple of his teammates, Ryan Braun and James Shields, pretty good players even at the age of 12. Nick lives in San Diego and shies away from a pitch that hits him on the arm. So down to first he goes. Descalso to second, and Brandon Barnes will be coming up.
Fielder number 1, Brandon Barnes.
First and second with 2 out, and Brandon Barnes, who's made a couple of nice plays in the outfield, coming in. Eric Young greeting Hundley down there at first base. Brandon hitting .262, but he's really perked up the last 5 games. Brandon is a fellow with a lot of tattoos. I mean, a lot of tattoos. If you start looking at his arms, you realize that it means a great deal to him. As he says, each tattoo has a meaning, and he wears them with pride. Here's the first pitch to Brandon, off speed for a strike, and the count 0-1. In fact, Brandon will talk about his tattoos. They cover both arms, portions of his legs, his back, and his chest. Some people collect art at their house. He says, I collect art on my body. Strike 1 pitch, lifted foul off to the right, out of play, and the count 0-2. And as Brandon was saying, I don't just put something ridiculous on my body to put it on my body. He started when he was about 16, and he had his last name written in red on his left arm. Then he got a few more when he turned 18. Suddenly both arms were covered. He figures if he ever sat down to count them, he has at least 25 tattoos. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. Bud Norris fastball in there at the knee. Strike 3 called. And so Bud Norris strikes out the side, besides giving up a base hit and hitting a batter. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Four in the ball game, Colorado and the Dodgers. Jorge De La Rosa and Bud Norris. De La Rosa now will be facing Adrian Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, and then Yasiel Puig. Gonzalez hitting .354 against De La Rosa, .273 for the year. So the left-hander turns on the rubber, and his first pitch to Adrian, breaking ball off the plate, ball one. Gonzalez hitting .354, 17 for 48 against De La Rosa, a half a dozen doubles and 9 walks and 3 home runs. Adrian swings a towering fly ball down the left field line, coming over as Brandon Barnes to make the catch. So De La Rosa has 4 outs in the game and 3 balls hit to the left fielder. 1 down, and Howie Kendrick coming up. They tell me that De La Rosa is doing a turnaround. In other words, he started off in his career against the Dodgers 3-10, and in his last 6 starts 4-1. Well, how about the turnaround he did back in 2009? First pitch off the plate, ball one. Back then, he was 0-6 in his first 10 starts, and after June 1, he went 16-3. De La Rosa, only the 3rd pitcher in history, and the first since at least 1900, to win at least 16 in a season in which he started off 0-6. So he can turn around. Kendrick, meanwhile, hitting very well for over 2 weeks, a 300 clip. The 1-1 pitch on the way is swung on and missed, and the count 1-2. De La Rosa had Tommy John surgery in 2011. He's been pitching professionally since 1999. 35 years old. Jorge ready, and his 1-2 pitch coming up, and that's in the dirt, blocked by Hundley, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. De La Rosa, 6'1", 215 pounds. He is a very honored man in Colorado, and not for his pitching at all, but for his charitable heart. He funds an entire RBI program, and I mean everything involved in the program. 2-2 pitch on the way, low and away, ball 3. When I say the entire program, he funds 25 baseball teams, 12 softball teams, not only uniforms, but umpire fees, coach stipends, equipment, balls for the teams, etc. 3-2, chopper up the middle, charging, backhand is Descalso to throw him out. So down goes Kendrick, and we have 2 out in the 2nd inning. Yasiel Puig coming up.
Number 66.
What a tremendous thing for De La Rosa to do. And he also gives up equipment to teams in Adams, Aurora, Denver, Jefferson, and Weld counties in Colorado. And as he says very simply, it's the only way I can pay back the fans. So that has really helped Colorado. Instead of budgeting money for that program, they saved that money for other community efforts. So here now is Yasiel Puig. 2 down, 2nd inning, no score. First pitch in for a strike to Yasiel. Banged into the wall. Came up with a sore leg, but he was back in the lineup the next day on the road trip. De La Rosa trying to snap a little 2-game losing streak. Strike 1 pitch, swung on and foul back. 0-2. So Yasiel working on the Velcro. One of the biggest reasons, I think, ever since they invented Velcro. That was the reason why the games take so much time now. A small but important factor. Strike 2 pitch on the way. Breaking ball low. 1-2 the count. De La Rosa basically fastball, curveball, splitter, and a cutter. Jorge, a little shake of no to Hundley, and his 1-2 pitch to Yasiel swung on and missed, and down he goes. 2nd strikeout for De La Rosa. He has retired 6 in a row, and at the end of 2, no score. We go to the third inning. No score in the ball game. The Rockies and the Dodgers. It'll be Jorge De La Rosa, then Blackmon and Adames against Bud Norris. Bud has a very strict set of pregame rituals as he works the pitcher in for a strike and the count 0-1. He starts his routine exactly an hour and 5 minutes before the first pitch. If the game's at 7:05, he's in the shower at 6 o'clock. The pitch is swung on and missed, 0-2. And after Norris showers, he changes, stretches, puts on headphones, goes to the bullpen mound at exactly 6:45. Oh, one other thing about it. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. Chased and fouled at the plate. Though De La Rosa's still there, 0-2. How about this one? Quote, I also put my baseball pants on 2 legs at a time instead of 1. Try it sometime. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way from Bud, and it misses inside. Fastball at the knees, and the count 1-2. Bud's grandfather went to school at Cal Berkeley and went to spring training with the Yankees. Gave him an autographed ball signed by Joe DiMaggio. Another fastball hit late, but hit foul into the screen. So De La Rosa just got a little bit of a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Norris works from the first base side, right at the edge of the rubber. De La Rosa waiting in the 1-2 pitch. Bud ready. Here he comes, way away. 2-2 the count. Norris, by the way, his first name is David, but no one calls him David. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The pitch to De La Rosa is high, ball 3. We mentioned about Bud's grandfather, and he loved his grandfather Ken. So before every game, he goes to the mound and carves his grandfather's initials in the dirt on the back of the mound. 3-2 pitch on the way, swung on and missed, and that takes care of De La Rosa. So here we are, just leading off the third inning, and Norris has 5 strikeouts. So 1 out in the third, and the batter is Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon is a fellow who gets a lot of press because he's a very interesting guy. And I guess we should have realized that he's the type who would break in with a splash. He hit his first major league home run on his birthday as a pinch hitter. Charlie shows bunt, takes ball 1. He is a very, very good bunter. Blackmon runs well, has stolen as many as 30 stolen bases. He had 43 for the Rockies, and takes the strike, and the count 1-1. He's 6'3", a 200-pounder. In fact, today's his birthday, July 1. I don't think anybody knows, but he fouls one off. So according to my records, happy birthday to Charlie Blackmon. Went to school at Georgia Tech, although he was born in Dallas, Texas. Blackmon drafted twice as a pitcher. He has a good arm, and eventually signed by the Rockies. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. No score, top of the third. Norris fastball high at 94. Blackmon, kind of a beanpole of a left-hand pitcher in high school. Everybody thought, well, he can't play any other position. He's got to be a pitcher, anything but. 2-2 pitch on the way is swung on, pop fly. Seagrang goes out and makes the catch for the out. 2 out in the third inning. Christian Adames coming up. Adames, spelling that name A-D-A-M-E-S. So your first thought is maybe it's Adams, but it's Adames. He's from Santo Domingo. He'll be 25 later in the month. Meanwhile, Trevor Story really sorely missed. He was hit by a pitch. He has a bruised finger, can't grip the bat. And of course, Story is quite a story. He has 19 home runs and 50 runs batted in. And Dodgers certainly perhaps relieved that that extra power is not in the lineup. But those of us who love the game would just as soon like to see Trevor Story play. Adames, meanwhile, fouls it off, and the count 0-2. So half of the infield is missing, with Story down and LeMahieu down. So Adames trying to do his best. Signed by the Rockies as a free agent way back in 2007. And gazing is LeMahieu. The strike 2 pitch on the way, swung on and fouled back. The thing about LeMahieu, of course, you can't recognize it when he's sitting in the dugout, but his size. LeMahieu is as tall a second baseman as you would ever see. He's 6'4". You have to go back to High Pockets Kelly in the 1920s. And boy, he is a dandy. So they're minus 2 very good players. Strike 2 pitch, swung on and fouled away. No score, top of the third, 2 down. Bud Norris has struck out 5. And he has 2 quick strikes on Adames. Now the next one off speed and away. 1-2 the count. Christian figures to be a very good backup infielder, and that's what he is right now. He is not expected to hit much. 1-2 pitch is hit down the left field line, slicing foul, and back into the stand. Nothing new. Let's see. Yes, there is. Arizona 4, Giants 3. So the Giants trying to come back. They're only in the 4th inning. Adames rounded out in the 1st inning. Switch hitter batting left-handed against Bud Norris. Bud turns, ready, and his 1-2 fast sinker is fouled back. 1-2 the count. Give you an idea of what kind of an athlete Norris is with Arenado on deck. Norris was a sophomore in high school, played the team's football playoff game, and he taped a sponge in the back of his knee. Against doctor's orders, he wanted to play with stitches. So he is that kind of a competitor even back then. 1-2 pitch on the way, fastball pulled on the ground oddly. Chase has it plenty of time, and that'll be that. 1-2-3 for Norris. So at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. score in the ball game. Dodgers will have Trayce Thompson playing center because of that magnificent catch by Joc Pederson crashing into the wall in Milwaukee on a ball hit by Cris Carter. His right shoulder took the brunt of the collision. The non-throwing shoulder, but it's also the lead arm when you're a left-hand batter. So Joc unable to play, and he'll be the 19th Dodger to go on the DL. So Trayce Thompson filling in center, hitting .239, and perking up, hitting .280 here. Back comes De La Rosa, off speed, swung on and missed, and the count 0-2. Thompson, Grandal, and Norris against Jorge De La Rosa. Brandon McCarthy in the dugout sitting alongside of Joc Pederson. Brandon is going to pitch on Sunday. The pitch down and away, 1-2. So McCarthy and Gray on Sunday, Bettis and Kazmir tomorrow night. 1 ball and 2 strikes. De La Rosa working on Trayce Thompson, no score. Jorge back in the dirt, 2 balls and 2 strikes. With De La Rosa, as we mentioned, he pitches pretty well on the road. Earned run average of 4. It's over 10 in Colorado. Now, if the Dodgers get anybody on, they figure to run. Base stealers have stolen 6 out of 7 against him this year. So the veteran working on Thompson, and his 2-2 pitch on the way. Taken low in the dirt, ball 3. Rockies are 5-4 in those games started by De La Rosa, and you have Yasmani Grandal waiting on deck. One thing, if you pitch for Walt Weiss and the Rockies, especially in Colorado, you're going to get a lot of run support. De La Rosa averaging 7 runs in his games in Colorado, and he proceeds to walk Thompson. And the batter will be Yasmani Grandal. Now, we just told you that the league will run on De La Rosa despite the fact he's left-handed. Thompson has stolen 5 out of 6. So let's see if that combination is going to happen right now. So this is the interesting part, a battle in the war between a left-hand pitcher and a pretty good base stealer. De La Rosa looks over at him, comes to the plate, and sneaks it low and inside, ball 1, 1-0. So the veteran who's been pitching for so long, using every trick in the book now to hold the runner on. 1 ball, no strikes, and the next one in for a strike. Hardly much of a delivery. I mean, he comes set, and he comes right at the plate. There's no big move. He's cut it down to just about a brief stop, and then the pitch. Looking at the runner, and here he comes from a stretch position. 2-1 the count. The Yasmani Grandal. Now George Lombard over to talk to Trayce Thompson, and with a count 2-1, you would expect something might happen right now. Hit and run probably. De La Rosa, Thompson a cautious lead. He's not going, and the pitch, ground ball to short. They're going to get 1. They go back to first, and they get the double play. Well, that strikes you a little strange. I mean, you set up the stage. You know that the league is running on him, and you have a manager's count, 2 balls and 1 strike. You have a pretty good runner, and you don't have a hit and run, and you do get, with all that thinking before the play, a double play. So 2 down, and Bud Norris coming up. The best laid plans of mice and men, and sometimes there just aren't any plans. So here is Norris. Has a couple of hits. Bud takes low, ball 1. 1-0. No score. Bottom of the 3rd. Chase Utley on deck. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Ground ball to 3rd. One-handed there by Arenado to throw him out. So despite the promise of a leadoff walk, the Dodgers go 1-2-3. And at the end of 3, no score. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. And by Del Taco. Try the Del Taco, a new taco inspired by the original and loaded with more of everything you love. Two familiar faces if you've been around long enough. Casey Stengel with the Yankees, Walter Alston with the Dodgers. The picture taken before an All-Star game won by the National League, 7-3. They were two different men. Walter Alston was very quiet. Casey Stengel, he would talk and talk all night, literally, when he was with the Mets. He would stay up later than all the writers, and he'd be in the hotel coffee shop first thing in the morning. Alston, the quiet man from Dartown, Ohio. Fourth inning, no score. Nolan Arenado, Carlos Gonzalez, and Mark Reynolds. So Bud Norris now going up against the heavy part of the Colorado lineup. Arenado struck out in the first inning. 21 home runs, 65 RBIs, and a Gold Glove. People are now talking about Arenado as one of the great third basemen. He lashes one foul. Arenado's dad idolized Roberto Clemente. 0-1. That's in there. 0-2. Arenado didn't arrive quite as quickly as he thought he should. He signed in 2009 and he was up in 2013, and he thought he should have been up even earlier than that. In fact, that was the knock against him. The Rockies felt that he spent too much time wondering when he might get called up to the majors after June of 2012. 2-2. However, the front office said that Nolan's maturity level still hasn't caught up with his ability level. Well, that kind of depressed him, but he has come up, and here he is to stay. 2-2. Fouled away. 2 years ago, Arenado learned a big lesson. He hit one of those comebackers back to the Pirate pitcher Charlie Morton. Frustrated, he took a head-down jog to first base. And by the time he returned to the bench, after his lack of haste cost the team a base runner, Walt Rice made it clear that frustration was no excuse to not hustle. So the next inning, Charlie Culberson was sent out to play third base. Arenado had to watch as the Rockies won 8-1. Actually, the pitcher didn't feel the comeback cleanly either. So Nolan learned the lesson. And down he goes, striking out a second time. So Bud Norris has been outstanding in 3 1/3 innings. That means 10 outs. He has struck out 6. And now here's Carlos Gonzalez. And after we talked about what a horrible series he had, striking out 10 times the last time they were here, he struck out his first at bat. And here's a guy hitting .328, 18 home runs, 51 ribbies. A soft line drive to the middleman, Utley. 2 down. We're in the fourth, no score. So Gonzalez back to the dugout. So you realize in the last series he was 1 for 12. He's now 1 for 14 here in the last 4 games he's played. So Mark Reynolds struck out in the second inning. Carlos still trying to figure things out. Little low, ball one. 1-0. Pretty good fastball, a little sink to it at 88. 1 ball and 1 strike. Bud Norris, 31 years old. Looked like a slider that fooled him. And 1-2. We've had 1 hit in the game so far. Single by Descalso in the 2nd inning. 1-2 to Reynolds. A little low. Through 3 innings, De La Rosa had made 33 pitches and Norris 47. The difference, Norris striking out a half a dozen. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Chasing what looked like a cutter, and down goes Reynolds. 7 strikeouts for Bud Norris in 4 innings. Filling in for Clayton Kershaw. Wow. No score. Fourth inning, no score. Dodgers and Rockies. Utley, Seager, and Turner in that order. Utley flied to left field. 0 for 1. Look at that last 10 at bats. No score in the 4th. Strike 0-1. One ball and 1 strike. For De La Rosa to pitch so well, that's an upset for Walt Weiss. In the last 9 games, Colorado pitching has given up at least 11 hits in 8 of the last 9 games. And here's De La Rosa right now in the 4th inning. He has allowed a walk. That's all. One of the things that has helped him to do in his turnaround this year He's getting a lot of ground balls, about 3 ground balls for every fly ball. Little chopper foul. So the first 4 hitters, 3 of them hit fly balls. Then he has settled down. And he's gotten the ground ball. He got the ground ball for the double play. And the last out, a ground ball. So we'll see whether that continues. 2-2 to Utley. Big overhand curveball misses. 3-2 the count. Waiting on deck, Corey Seager. Fastball, but he missed. So he walked Thompson leading off the 3rd. Now he walks Utley leading off the 4th. And here's Corey Seager. Corey hitting .298, 17 home runs, 40 runs batted in. Utley at first, nobody out, no score, 4th inning. Fastball through the legs and into center field for a base hit. Utley flying to 3rd. That went right between De La Rosa's legs. So for Seager, he continues to bang away. There it goes, right through the wicket. Seager now extends his hitting streak to 14 with a clean as a whistle base hit. So hit number 1 for the Dodgers puts them in a position of 1st and 3rd and nobody out. Turner, Gonzalez, and Kendrick coming up. So a big challenge for De La Rosa. Turner, line drive out, caught on the dead run by Brandon Barnes out in left field. Boy, Utley ran well. He's remarkable at 37. That's in the dirt. Nice block by Hundley. Ball 1. No score, bottom of the 4th. Dodgers threatening. Giants gave up a bunch of runs early. They were trailed 4-1, but now it's 4-3, and about the middle of the game in Arizona. Foul back. Interesting about Arizona and the Giants. The visiting team has always won. I mean, this year. Arizona swept the Giants in San Francisco, and the Giants earlier swept Arizona over there. 1 ball and 1 strike to Justin Turner. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez. No score. Turner backs out, so everything stops for the moment. Now they hook up. De La Rosa has a terrific split finger changeup. 1-2 the count. And as we told you, he had worked earlier to take the pause out of his delivery, but he's back doing it again. What helped him, even though he is a starting pitcher, he did go into the bullpen for a little while. That's when he had a chance to really work on his pitches, and it's paid off. 1-2, no pitch. No pitch. Time called by the catcher, and the plate umpire, Will Little, is making it clear, hey, I didn't call it. It was his own catcher who called it. And now Will's going out to the mound. Well, watch. Hundley must have said something. And you can see Will pointing, hey, I didn't do it. The hitter didn't do it. It's your man who called it. So he made sure De La Rosa knows, and then De La Rosa kindly shrugged as if say, well, okay, all right. All right, 1 and 2. Utley's at third. Seager at first. Nobody out. No score. 4th inning. Utley down the line. The throw goes to first. One and 2 to Justin Turner. Turner looking for a base hit. He is 0 for 10 against De La Rosa. And make it 0 for 11. So Turner strikes out. That would be the 3rd strikeout for De La Rosa. And now Adrian Gonzalez. So the boys from Mexico hook up. Adrian hitting .272. De La Rosa was born in an area really known for baseball. That's in Monterrey, Nuevo Leon. And he came up to the minor leagues in the U.S. He was only 17. And he was pitching for Milwaukee when he was 23. A hopper into right field. That scores Utley. Seager stops at second. And the Dodgers lead 1-0. So Adrian Gonzalez, who normally has a great deal of success against De La Rosa, that would be the 18th hit he has against him. So Adrian, a single to right. Seager stops at second. Utley walks home. And the Dodgers put a run on the board. Interesting for Adrian Gonzalez, he's done most of his good work with the bat on the road, hitting .347 on the road. At home, hitting only .186. 2 on, 1 out. And the batter now Kendrick. A little ground ball to third. No tag. The throw has to go to first. Or did he try to tag? Yeah, he did, and apparently missed him because he immediately looked back at third base umpire Lance Rochdale, who said safe. So Ronaldo tried, couldn't do it. 2 down, runners at second and third. De La Rosa got the big double play in the 3rd inning. He doesn't need the double play now, 2 down, but he's induced 65 double play balls. That's 8th in the majors right now. That's going back to 2013. So he got it when he needed it, couldn't get it that time. And here's Kendrick. Now Puig is avoiding the pitch. Almost got him, ball 1. In the inning, Utley walked. Seager singled right through De La Rosa's legs. Utley racing to third. Turner struck out. Gonzalez singled in the run. Utley scored. Kendrick grounds out now. And here is Puig with first base open. That was a cutter that missed. 2 balls and no strikes. Puig coming into the game and struck out, so he is 2 for 9 against De La Rosa, and he certainly has to count his way 3-0. Trace Thompson on deck. 1-0 Dodgers, 4th inning. 4-3 Arizona in the 6th. And inside for ball 4. So Puig showed a bit of patience, and the bases are loaded as Walt Weiss watches his veteran left-hander work on Trace Thompson. Three walks given up by De La Rosa. He walked Thompson, he walked Utley, and now he's walked Puig. Dodgers lead 1-0 with the bases loaded, 2 down. in the dirt. Boy, De La Rosa lives in the dirt. Like the only pitch that seemed up around the shoulders was the pitch he threw to Justin Turner when he struck him out in this inning. Otherwise, everything's been down. One ball and no strikes. Fastball fouled off. There was a time not too long ago De La Rosa could hit about 88. He had lost the velocity on the fastball, but not anymore. That last pitch was 93 miles an hour. One and one to Trayce Thompson. Breaking ball, little dribble to short. The shovel will be to first base, safe. Dodgers get a big break on that ball hit up the middle, and we will see now if Colorado will appeal and ask to get it reviewed. Ground ball. Adames looked like he would shovel the ball to Descalso and get the force play, but he didn't, and he sidearmed to first, and it was late, or at least it was ruled late, but they're going to review it. So that was a strange play by the shortstop, who does not play every day.
Ball in the field is under review.
So it's going to be reviewed. But it would have been so much easier for Adames to just flip the ball to Descalso. So the umpires put their heads together. The crew chief, Angel Hernandez. Here's another look. Well, bang, bang. The umpire at first base, veteran Jim Wolf, taking a good long look. Reynolds reaching out, the foot in the air, the ball, and it looks like the foot's late as the ball goes in the glove, but we'll wait and see. Just another tough play. Just another reason why the umpires do a remarkable job to be right at any time. Weiss, who played a very good shortstop position, might question Adames for not throwing the ball to the second baseman. So it's either the third out, 1-0 Dodgers, or only 2 out and 2-0 Dodgers. So it's a big play. And they're sweating it out in New York to get it right. So Seager would or would not have scored the run. So he waits impatiently, and the umpires wait. Angel Hernandez is the umpire on the right, wearing the headgear. Yeah, it's tough. You can look at it several times and come to several different conclusions. Christian Adames, I think, if he had the play to do over again, he would have just shoveled the ball to Descalso. Out. Yeah, it looked like it. It looked like Thompson's foot was still in the air as the ball got into the glove of Mark Reynolds. So Adames got away with it barely, and at the end of 4, 1-0 Dodgers. 7 strikeouts for Bud Norris through 4 innings. Admittedly, he is facing a team notorious for striking out, but they're also a team that scores a lot of runs. The Rockies have 104 home runs. They have 628 strikeouts. Descalso, Hundley, and Barnes. Descalso single to left field in the 2nd inning. That's the only Rockies hit. Remember, he's now hitting .409 against Bud Norris. And a strike on 1. Daniel Descalso playing for DJ LeMahieu. Check swing, 1-1. Descalso and Giants shortstop Brandon Crawford were teammates, but not in baseball, not even T-ball, but on the soccer field. 10 years later, in Babe Ruth baseball, then they faced each other. When the Dodgers had a look at Descalso, it always seemed like he was vitally involved in any game with the Cardinals. 2-2. He was a 3rd-round pick by the Cardinals. Went to the University of California, Davis. He was born in San Carlos. 2-2 to Daniel Descalso. Descalso played second base for Team USA when the team won the gold medal at the World Cup. That was back in 2009. Two balls, 2 strikes. And ball 3. Norris up to 66 pitches now. Because of all his strikeouts, 7. 3-2. And that's ball 4. So again, Descalso is out in front of him with a base hit and a walk. Norris hit Hundley, and that's his first walk. Hundley hit by the pitch, grazed him on the arm. That came with 2 out. Now they have the leadoff man aboard. Hundley, Barnes, and De La Rosa due up. Everybody thought Nick Hundley would be a football player. And a hard ground ball to short. They're going to get 1. They will turn it for 2. So Hundley kills 2, as they say, and Brandon Barnes coming up.
Number 1, Brandon Barnes.
6-4-3. In the top of the 6th inning, the Giants, who had trailed the Diamondbacks ever since the 1st inning. Trevor Brown, the backup catcher, hit a 2-run double for the Giants. And the Giants have taken the lead 5-4 as they go to the bottom of the 6th inning. 0-1 to Brandon Barnes. Boy, Barnes took a big swing. He does not have a home run. 5 runs batted in. He's the fella, well, if you're watching, with a lot of tattoos. High foul out of play. So Brandon now in the hole, no balls and 2 strikes. A lot of the tattoos have a strong religious significance. High fly ball to center and deep. Thompson going back to the track at the wall to make the catch. So Barnes just misses. And 1, 2, 3 go the Rockies. And at the end of 4.5 innings, a paint scraper for an out. And the Dodgers lead 1-0. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Save big on a new Camry or Camry Hybrid at Toyota's July 4th sales event. All the Dodgers of 1952 that were elected to the All-Star team. We'll go over those faces in a moment. Big change for a strike to Yasmani Grandal, then Bud Norris, and Chase Utley. And little pop foul. Hundley has a play. One away. Let's take a look at that picture again. That's Carl Furillo holding up number 1. Jackie Robinson, of course. Then Roy Campanella. Then the captain, number 1, Pee Wee Reese. Then the center fielder, Duke Snider. Then a wonderful left-hand pitcher by the name of Elwin Preacher Rowe, and one of the best I've ever known, Gil Hodges. They were a great group and were so good to that red-headed kid who just started broadcasting. 0-1 to Norris, who grounded to third in the 3rd inning. On deck, Chase Utley. It's 1-0 Dodgers in the 5th. Giants are leading 5-4 in Arizona, bottom of the 6th inning. Breaking ball, a half swing. And that'll do it for Norris. 4 strikeouts for De La Rosa. Norris has struck out 7. And the batter is Utley, who started the trouble for De La Rosa with a walk beginning the 4th inning. Seager singled him to third, and he scored on a single by Gonzalez, and that's the only run. But to watch Utley go from first to third on that base hit, wow, at 37, he can still move it. And a strike, 0-1. De La Rosa is due to lead off, followed by Blackmon and Adames in the 6th inning. 1-0 Dodgers. Curveball popped up. Going out for it is Descalso. Blackmon coming in. And Descalso, in fact, that's Adames with the shift on. Hello, darling. 1, 2, 3, and don't you look cute? Wow, what a marvelous bow. Yeah, one day you'll be looking for a bow. 1-0 Dodgers. First, 1941. That was the first full day of commercial television in New York. The night before they had some boxing, but the next day they televised a Dodger-Phillies game. The Phillies won 6-4 in 10 innings, a crowd of 3,300. And how much did a commercial cost? Tell you in a moment. Let's go back to this one. You know how the prices have gone crazy for the Super Bowl. I can't even remember how much a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl is, but you know it's a lot of money. Well, during that Dodger-Phillies game, they had a commercial, and the first commercial was for Bulova watches. The commercial ran for 20 seconds. What do you think it cost? You got it. $9. Yeah, $9 for the commercial. Meanwhile, 2-1 the count. De La Rosa, Blackmon, and Adames in that order. Fastball up and away. 2-2. So Norris has been remarkable. He gave up the single to the one guy he's never been able to get out, Descalso. He has struck out 7. He's hit a batter and he has walked 1. And he's leading 1-0. Still 2-2. So Norris ready to make his 77th pitch. He was averaging 14 pitches an inning. And a lot less than that, except for the 7 strikeouts. We get a report from Rob Menchel. Now remember that commercial in 1941, 20 seconds cost $9. For the Super Bowl in 2016, for a 30-second commercial, $5 million. $5 million for a 30-second commercial. No, even if you say inflation, there's nowhere to go with $9 back in 1941 and get it all the way up to the Super Bowl. That will do it for De La Rosa. That's the 8th strikeout for Bud Norris. Say, friends, celebrate the 81 World Series. The Dodgers tri-MVPs. That'll be tomorrow. Dodgers and Rockies. And the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive a 1981 tri-MVP bobblehead presented by Security Benefit. So for tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. All right, here's Charlie Blackmon. Fly to center and popped up. Watch the count on Charlie. That's a strike. Okay. On the 0-1 count, he is hitting .517. On the 1-1 count, he's hitting .563. So let's see about this time. So 1 ball and 1 strike. That's a strike. 1-2 the count. Blackmon is the holder of a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in finance from Georgia Tech. Foul ball. One thing Charlie did, he went to a game in January. He went to a Denver Nuggets game, and at halftime, he had a half-court shot. They say when he sunk the shot, he ran off the court like Harpo Marx. 1-2. And a drive to right. Puig, late start. Reaches up, can't get it. Plays it nicely off the wall, and Blackmon into second base with a double. Puig did not get a jump on the ball. I'm not sure if he lost it in the crowd, but the ball was hit and he had not moved. So in watching his body language, you know he's thinking, I should have caught it. Now he starts, but by that time the ball's over his head. We remember as kids, I used to say, you have to get the jump at the crack of the bat. Forget it. If you're waiting for the crack of the bat, the ball's over your head. So Yasiel did not get a jump. It winds up as a double, and now Adames followed by Arenado. I remember I've told it before, as a little kid in the bleachers, on a ball like that, I would see the ball leave the infield, and then I would hear the crack. And I asked the man in the bleachers, why was that? And the man said, because the speed of light is faster than the speed of sound. So if you're waiting for the crack of the bat, that ball's already on its way. And for Yasiel, no jump, no play, double. 0-1. 1 out. Dodgers right now pretty fortunate. No knock about Adames, but they would certainly much rather see young Christian up there at the plate than DJ LeMahieu. LeMahieu is batting .326. Adames about .226. 0-2. And fly ball down the left field line. No place for Blackmon to go, but back to second base. They're going to the bottom of the 7th inning in Arizona. Giants 5, Diamondbacks 4.
Baseman Nolan Arenado.
Nolan Arenado hitting .294. struck out twice tonight. Utley comes in from second base to say something to Bud Norris, perhaps about trying to take some steps away from Charlie Blackmon. Blackmon runs well and steals bases. He has stolen 6 out of 9. Not to say he's going to try to steal third, but you never know. And a fly ball, very playable. Kendrick is there. And Yasiel Puig dodges a bullet out there in right field. No runs, the double and a man left. And at the end of 5 1/2, 1-0 Dodgers. The Chicago Cubs in Wrigley Field. The home run leaders in June this year, well, the Cubs 46, the Rockies 39, the Nationals 38, Dodgers 37, and the Cardinals 35. We mentioned the fact that the Rockies, with Nolan Arenado and the others, have 104 home runs. The Dodgers, as a team, have 88. So here is Seager. Struck out, singled, 0-1. Bud Norris has been absolutely phenomenal in 6 innings. He has struck out 8 and made only 88 pitches. However, the Dodgers are going to back him up, and Norris getting hugs from his former coach in San Diego, Dave Roberts. Great performance. Adam Libator is throwing in the bullpen. What a great way to join a new ball club and turn in the performance that Bud Norris did. Norris getting 5s. Trace Thompson, Rick Honeycutt. What a marvelous, you talk about being on the spot. That's going to be stroked to right field, but that's Gonzalez. 1 away. You're replacing Clayton Kershaw. What an act to follow. And all he does is strike out 8, walk 1, hit a batter, and allow 2 hits. Remarkable performance. Justin Turner lined out to left and struck out. Off speed. 1 ball and no strikes. Dodgers got a run in the 4th inning. Utley walked. Seager singled into 3rd. Turner struck out. Gonzalez singled to right, and Utley scored, and that's it. So the Dodgers leading by 1, and the Giants are leading by 1, 5-4 over in Arizona. Bottom of the 7th. Chopper foul. Scott Kazmir tomorrow night. The big surprise is the fact that Sunday Brandon McCarthy is due to start for the Dodgers. Tomorrow night, Chad Bettis and Scott Kazmir. So there's Brandon standing behind A.J. Ellis. He's gone through so much, and he'll put on a line Sunday afternoon. 3-1. Fastball got the corner. Each side with 2 hits. The difference, the Dodgers have a run. And ball 4 to Turner. De La Rosa has walked 4, and they're going to move around now in the Rockies bullpen. He walked Thompson and got away with it in the 3rd. He walked Utley, who scored the only run of the game, driven in by Adrian Gonzalez. He also walked Puig, and now he's walked Turner. Gonzalez, Reynolds, and Descalso due up in the 7th. Fastball, strike. That was strange. Adrian just stood there, bat on his shoulder, and just took the strike. Now he's back to all business. 0-1. Breaking ball, little roller. They're going to get 1 and 2. So the second double play turned in. A very tough ball game, push against shove, and at the end of 6, 1-0 Dodgers. The Dodgers pitching coach sitting next to Bud Norris, who has turned in a magnificent effort tonight. Norris struck out 8. And he got the good ones like Arenado and Gonzalez 4 times between them. He got Reynolds twice, and he got De La Rosa twice. But a tremendous performance by Bud Norris, who now surrenders the ball to Adam Liberatore, who will be facing Gonzalez, Reynolds, and Descalso. By the way, in tough one-run games, the Rockies are 5-11. The Dodgers in one-run games are better than that, 14-14. Down in the Dodger pen, Lewis Coleman gets up to back up Liberatore. We're in the 7th, 1-0 Dodgers. Gonzalez struck out, lined out, 0 for 2. So the last time that we have seen him now, plus tonight, he is 1 for 14 with 11 strikeouts. And here's one of the top players in the game. They're in the 8th inning in Arizona. Giants 5, D-backs 4. Cargo, as they call him. Off the corner, they've loaded up the right side of the infield. Carlos Eduardo Gonzalez from Maracaibo in Venezuela. Last year he did nothing, hit 200 with the bases empty, put men on base. He was unbelievable. With nobody on, he was hitting 208 last year. With runners on, 387. With runners in scoring position, 383. And with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, he had 361. And yet here he is, as good as he is, struggling against the Dodgers. 2-2. Ball 3. Waiting on deck, Mark Reynolds. Three and 2. Fastball hit late and foul. Still 3 and 2. Interesting note, Gonzalez broke in like a star. He was the first player to have the first 7 hits of his career go for extra bases since Hall of Famer Johnny Mize. And he slices one to left center. It will be room service for Kendrick. 1 away. So that means so far, with Cargo playing in Dodger Stadium this year, he is 1 for 15. Mark Reynolds struck out twice, because Mark is that kind of a hitter, a power hitter who certainly pays the price. He struck out as many as 223 times, 211 times, 204 times. But with 1 pitch, he can tie it up. Ball 1. He has homered 28 times, 44 times, 32, 37. 1 ball, no strikes. Mark on a 1-0 count. 2-0. A few years ago, Reynolds did a lot of running too. He had 4 stolen bases in a game against the Cubs, and he was 4 for 4 in stolen bases. 2-1. Reynolds will be 33 in August. During the 2007 season, not that I'm pointing out weaknesses, it's just a Reynolds trademark. He tied the major league record. He struck out in 9 consecutive plate appearances. But he has so much talent, he played every day anyway. 2-1. Ball 3. Descalso reached second base with 2 out in the second inning, and Blackmon reached second with a double with 1 out in the 6th. And that's really been the extent of the Rockies' attack. 3-1. And ball 4. Hey, friends, when you think of 4th of July, you think of America's favorite pastime, right? Dodger baseball and fireworks. So celebrate the year at the Dodger game with the Orioles. Enjoy a post-game fireworks show courtesy of Hawaiian Springs Water. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Dodgers had given up a walk and a hit batter from Norris. Now a walk from Liberatore sends Reynolds to first. Descalso singled and walked against Norris. Now we told you about Reynolds running. Foul back. Reynolds does not run anymore. He might have gone 4 for 4 several years ago. He does not have a stolen base. So we'll see if they put a play on hit and run. 0-1 the count. Hundley, right-hand hitter, hitting behind Descalso. 0-1. That was a cutter. 1-1 the count. Descalso certainly the only Rockies player who wished Bud Norris was still in there. Foul back. He'll be 30 years old in October. One ball and 2 strikes. Two and two. Descalso, who doesn't play a lot, not with LeMahieu in front of him, but even so, he came into the game hitting .385. One out, 7th inning, 1-0 Dodgers. Still 2-2. Giants right fielder Jarrett Parker just hit a home run in the 8th inning. So the Giants are leading Arizona 6-4, top of the 8th. Chase Utley signaling to Corey Seager about who's going to cover second base. But when you look at the way the infield is set up, there's no doubt who's going to cover. There's just about no chance that Utley could get there. And with a left-hand batter, you don't expect Utley to be involved anyway. 2-2. And again, Utley and Seager holding the glove up to the face. Usually it's tight lips or open mouth, signaling who's covering. And normally, with a left-hand hitter, you'd expect the shortstop to cover anyway. Utley almost facing Seager. There you go. He's telling him. But the way they're positioned, it's up to Utley to get there. Ground foul ball. 2-2 the count. The only run, fourth inning. Utley walked, Seager singled him to third, and Gonzalez base hit to right to score him, and that's it. Rockies had first and second, but 2 out in the second inning. They had a 1-out double by Blackman in the 6th, and that's it. They're now going to the bottom of the 8th inning in Arizona, 6-4 Giants. As an interesting note on that Giants-Arizona series, the road team has won every game. So the Giants are trying to continue that, leading 6-4 in the 8th in Phoenix. 2-2. And got him. So Descalso caught looking. First strikeout for Liberatore. 9 strikeouts, and now Liberatore got his man, the left-hand hitting Descalso. Now they'll go to Coleman to take his chances against Nick Hundley. So it's still 1-0 Dodgers, 7th inning. Tough ball game. We'll be back.
Ball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com.
1-0 Dodgers. We're in the 7th inning. Mark Reynolds at first with 2 outs, and Lewis Coleman is brought in to face Nick Hundley. Hundley hit by a pitch and grounded into a double play. Hundley came into the game hitting .243, so he's given up a couple of points. Two out. Hundley out of the University of Arizona. Back in 2011, Hundley hit .288 for the Padres. That would be his best year. But he is not a .288 hitter. His father was a former Washington assistant football coach, then a defensive coordinator
at Texas El Paso. Then he was in charge of the defense at SMU. Rejoined Rick Neuheisel at UCLA as secondary coach. Last we heard, he's the safeties coach at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So a lot of football time. So everyone figuring that Nick Hundley, who is 6'1", 210, was going to continue on the path for football. But instead, he switched and went off to baseball, and it's paid him very well. First came up to the big leagues 2008. In the dirt, nice block by Yasmani. Reynolds holding, 1-2 the count. Tough game. The starting pitcher, Bud Norris. 6 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, a hit batter, and 8 strikeouts. De La Rosa, 1 run, 2 hits, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. 1-2. Fouled away. In the Dodger bullpen, Pedro Baez beginning to loosen up. One and two the count. Two and two. When he was with the Padres, Nick Hundley was asked by the manager, Bud Black, where he went to school. And Nick said the University of Arizona. He said, can you mention some of the famous alumni? He said, oh, sure, J.T. Snow. And Bud Black said, that's it? And he said, yeah. He said, how about Trevor Hoffman? Oh. Black said, you know the song they play when Trevor Hoffman comes into the game called Hell's Bells? Hundley said yes. Said, are you learning to play the guitar? Line drive backhanded by Seager. And Hundley said yes. And Bud Black said, I want to hear you play Hell's Bells for a while. And I'm sure he thought of more than Hell's Bells when Seager makes the catch. And it's still 1-0 Dodgers. For the Dodgers, they have a long homestand, so they have the weekend with Colorado, then 3 games with Baltimore, followed by 4 games with San Diego. So they'll be home right through Sunday, the 10th of July. Later on in August, the Dodgers have another good long homestand with the Red Sox, the Phillies, and Pittsburgh. Jorge De La Rosa ready to work the 7th inning, trailing 1-0. He's got Kendrick, followed by Puig, followed by Thompson. De La Rosa has been brilliant. He has allowed just 1 run and 2 hits, but it's enough to beat him. And he's due to bat second when he comes up in the 8th inning. Strike, 0-1. One ball and 1 strike. Chad Qualls begins to warm up in the Rockies bullpen. There's the veteran right-hander. Joe Blanton is up in the Dodger bullpen. Baez started and gave way to Joe. Two and 1. Ball 3. They are now in the top of the 9th inning over in Arizona. Giants 6, Diamondbacks 4. Dodgers trailing the Giants by 6. Fastball hit to the hole. That's a base hit. Over to get it is Gonzalez. So Kendrick goes the other way and singles to right. That is hit number 3. Nice bit of hitting by Howie. Yasiel Puig struck out and walked. Howie Kendrick is a very knowledgeable base stealer. You might forget or not be aware of it if you don't check the numbers. But Kendrick is 7 for 7 in stolen bases. Well, that thing ran right in on the hands. 0-1. Puig struck out and walked. When Yasiel walked in the 4th inning, they pitched to him with runners at 2nd and 3rd, and he showed a good deal of patience. 1-1. Woodward signaling to Puig. Lombard checking with Kendrick over there at first. Remember, you can run. These Steelers are 6 out of 7 against De La Rosa, which is painful for the pitcher, especially when you're left-handed. Dodgers didn't run with Thompson in the 3rd inning. We'll see about Kendrick. Breaking ball whacked into right center, base hit. Gonzalez up with it. Stopping at second is Kendrick. Gonzalez has a great arm. So 1st and 2nd, nobody out, and Trayce Thompson coming in. So you don't run on Carlos Gonzalez. So Puig got a ball up over the belt, single to right field. Dodgers going the other way twice now, and Thompson, who has walked and grounded out, coming up. 1 run, 4 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 2 hits for the Rockies. Chad Bettis, Scott Kazmir tomorrow night. Two on, nobody out. And ball 1. He is a master at getting double plays. He has 2 tonight. Walt Weiss with Tommy Reynolds, his bench coach. Qualls throwing in the bullpen. Was that fouled or did it just get away? And from the act, it looks like it just got away. So the Dodgers get a big break. And that should be a pass ball on Nick Hundley. And one thing, he should get a pass ball. With runners on, he's going to backhand the pitch. Wow. I'm waiting, but I've got to believe that's a pass ball. Infield in. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-1. Oh, wait a minute. Are they calling balk? Yep. The balk is called. The run comes in. De La Rosa talking to Will Little and Walt Weiss coming out. They're not going to argue very long. Little and he called the balk, but let's see, can you spot it? Well, he stepped forward and then rocked back and pitched again. So he'd be making 2 steps to the plate. So the Dodgers get a break. The balk scores Kendrick. 2 steps. That second step was nullified immediately. That's why he called the balk. And a high fly ball. It's playable, but the idea is Puig's going to tag up and score. A good throw by Brandon Barnes. A great throw by Barnes. Got him at the plate. Oh, what a throw by Brandon Barnes. Puig looking out as if to say, hey, that's the kind of throw I make. Marvelous play by Brandon Barnes.
Catcher, number 9.
Right on the money. And a nice tag by Hundley. Gotcha on the shoulder. Extending that left arm to reach to the plate. I know Puig felt a little something in the shoulder. That hurt him. Watch Hundley. Got him on the shoulder. So he had what I believe is a pass ball, then a balk, and then a great play from the left fielder. So 2 out, a run in. Puig still hurting a little bit. By the way, that is or was a pass ball. It's amazing. I can remember so many nights as a very young broadcaster sitting at Vero Beach outside the kitchen listening to Roy Campanella talk about catching. And one of the things that Campanella always talked about is the catcher with men on base. And with Roy, with men on base, you turned that mitt so that the heart of the mitt was pacing the pitcher, and you would shift your body. You would do everything not to let the ball get away. And that play by Hundley, first and second, nobody out, and he was going to backhand the pitch. And I could hear Roy saying, no, no, no. So he got a pass ball, cost them a run. 2-0 Dodgers, 7th inning, 2 out, 3-1 the count. Line drive, base hit. Off speed. Grandal was able to just lay back and wait for that. Will Venable, who just recently had been sent down when Jock Peterson was put on the DL, Will Venable was called back up.
Hitting number 25, Will Venable.
Stephen Foster, the pitching coach, going out to the mound to talk to De La Rosa. Because it's got to be a tough job for a pitching coach going out to talk about a man who's been pitching professionally since 1999. I mean, what can you possibly tell De La Rosa that he hasn't been heard before? But Stephen has sent the message. You know De La Rosa is finished because he is due to bat second in the 8th inning. 2 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 2 hits for the Rockies. And first pitch lifted down the left field line. Coming into foul ground is Barnes, no play. They're in the bottom of the 9th inning. Giants 6, D-backs 4. Casilla now pitching. Santiago trying to close it up for the Giants. 0-1. Curveball, little roller to first. That'll be that. However, the Dodgers get an extra run. Great throw by Brandon Barnes to erase a potential run. And we're heading to the 8th, 2-0 Dodgers. To nothing. Will Venable came into the bat for Lewis Coleman. Stays in the game in right field because of this play at the plate. The extended left arm, the shoulder. Puig hurt himself and had to come out. Dave Roberts talking now to Yasiel. So that extension of the shoulder and arm had to hurt. So Joe Blanton becomes the 4th Dodger pitcher. Dodgers are leading 2-0, and Brandon Barnes at the plate. Barnes made a huge play in the 7th inning, making that great throw to nail Puig at the plate. Barnes with the bat, however, struck out, and then in the 5th inning sent Trace Thompson up against the center field wall. A near home run, but only a long fly ball out. Trace made a fine play. 2 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, and 2 hits for the Rockies. Little pop fly. Utley is calling. On the way. Ryan Rayburn coming up.
Hitter number 6, Ryan Rayburn.
Rayburn has one big problem in life. They are forever misspelling his name. Pretty simple to say, well, R-A-B-U-R-N, but every locker attendant, when he goes to a ball club and they put your name above your locker, it's always misspelled. You know, Safeco Field, he became maybe the first player ever to hit a ball off the roof. It's a retractable roof, as you probably know. Now, the roof is officially listed at 217 feet. The trusses, however, are 50 feet in some places. They think the pop fly that he hit traveled about 175 to 200 feet high in the air, which tells you he is superbly strong. He's not that big. He's 6 feet, 185. Went to South Florida Community College. Two and two. Joe Blanton, the fourth Dodger pitcher. Norris, a brilliant six. Liberatore, Coleman, and now Joe. Ryan Neil Rayburn, R-A-B. The name's been spelled R-A-Y-B-U-R-N, R-A-E-B-U-R-N. He's accustomed to it now, and down he goes. So 2 out. 10 Rockies have struck out, but that's the Rockies game. And Charlie Blackmon coming up. So Walt Weiss sees a lot of swinging with 10 strikeouts tonight, 631 for the year. Charlie flied to center, popped to short, doubled over Puig's head in the 6th inning, and a strike. And stroked to center for a base hit. So Blackmon, a 2-out single. He's 2 for 4. Boy, he's a good player.
Shortstop number 18, Christian Adames.
We mentioned it early. Let's face it, it is not quite the Colorado team without LeMahieu and Story. LeMahieu can play. He was hitting .326. And Story had 19 home runs and 50 RBIs. So Adames pretty good with the glove, 0 for 3 with the bat. Ball 1. Boy, Blackmon really got off the bag at first base. Charlie runs well. He has stolen 6. On deck, Carlos Gonzalez, and you have 2 out. Check me, I said Gonzalez. Arenado. 1 ball and no strikes. Two runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, 3 hits for the Rockies. We're in the 8th. 1-1. Adames has been in 50 games. He's a switch hitter, but he doesn't really hit much from either side. He does have 1 home run, and it was hit left-handed. Final score, Giants 6, D-backs 4. And there goes Blackmon. And the pitch missed at the plate. The throw is high, but at least they have a runner at second base. Figured that Blackmon would try to go, and he has now stolen 7 out of 10. Throw sailed. Seager, a nice save. All right, 1-2 the count to Christian Adames. This is a big at bat now. If Adames fights himself aboard, Arenado coming up with a chance to get them out in front. Check, no swing. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. A runner at second. Dodgers lead by 2, 2-0. So a huge at bat now for Christian Adames. 24-year-old, be 25 the end of the month. He's got to somehow keep it alive for the Rockies for Arenado. Rockies have had 3 men safely get to second base. Descalso in the second, and Blackmon in the 6th, Blackmon in the 8th. Two and 2. And a comebacker barehanded, and Blanton throws to first. So Adames couldn't do it. Blanton can heave a sigh of relief, and we're ready to go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Nice play by Joe. Hand it and lob it to first. Almost flew it away. And it's 2-0 Dodgers. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers, or visit SoCalBMW.com. Bottom of the 8th inning, 2-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Gonzalez German. He is from La Romana, which is a famous resort in the Dominican Republic. 6'2", 195. He'll be 29 years old in September, and originally signed by the Mets. Strike to Utley. Chase lined out, walked and scored a run, and popped up. Dodgers leading 2-0 in the 8th, so it is no surprise Kenley Jansen gets up in the Dodger bullpen. He will be the 5th Dodger pitcher. Norris, who was brilliant for 6. Then Liberatore, Coleman, and Blanton. Foul ball off to the left. So the Dodgers probably know, looking at the scoreboard, Giants beat the D-backs 6-4. So it still has continued in that series. The visiting team has won every game. Ground ball exactly where Adames is to make the play. So what normally would be a base hit up the middle was a routine play to the shortstop.
Number 5, Corey Seager.
One away. Corey Seager has struck out, single to keep his streak alive, and flied to right. Seager now has hit in 14 straight. He had 2 hits in yesterday's game. Key base hit tonight. And base hit in the right center. Gonzalez up with it. And Corey will hold on to go 2 for 4 again tonight. MLB TV Premium, that's a #1 live streaming sports service, and it delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-time market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. It's the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply, so visit MLB TV for details. Well, here's Justin Turner, lined out to left, struck out and walked. Dodgers 2 runs, 6 hits. Rockies no runs, 3 hits, a drive to left, down the line. It is going to bounce off the wall. Still in play. Brandon Barnes gets it back in, and the Dodgers have runners at 2nd and 3rd. So Turner just missed hitting it out. Germain now in trouble, 2nd and 3rd for Gonzalez.
First baseman number 23.
Turner watching it. At first you think it might have made it. It short hopped the wall. And then Barnes, who got at the plate with that good arm, got it back in. And Stephen Foster going out to talk to the reliever. So Turner coming up with a double, goes 1 for 3. Kenley about ready if they need him. Germain came up to the Mets 3 years ago, was with them a couple of years, went to the Cubs, and eventually came over to the Rockies. Cubs claimed him on waivers, and then the Rockies claimed him from the Cubs. Baseball, well, good fastball, change, and a slider. So 2nd and 3rd, the infield is up. And it looks like they're going to pitch to Adrian. Dodgers with a golden chance now to break it wide open. That's a strike. 0-1. Blackmon slightly shaded towards left center. 3 men on the right side. Oh, and 1. 1-1. Down in the bullpen for the Rockies, Chad Qualls. He's up again. Germain got 1 out, then Seager singled and Turner doubled. And a base hit. That's going to score 1. They will hold Turner at 3rd. So even though there's a right-hand batter due out, they dared to face Adrian Gonzalez, and he probably singled in the Dodgers' 3rd run of the night. Fastball up, and he was able to clear the deck in right field. So for Gonzalez, he comes up with his second hit, his second run batted in. Dodgers lead 3-0. And Walt Weiss now, I guess, was going to bring in Chad Qualls. So it was a little interesting. I can't imagine how many times they have a right-hand pitcher with second and third face base open and have him pitch to Adrian Gonzalez with a right-hand batter on deck. So here comes Qualls. We'll be back. Pitchers, Chad Bettis with a record of 6-5, a high ERA, but you always think about the altitude in Colorado and Denver. Matched up against Scott Kazmir, 6-3, high ERA, almost 5, and they'll go head to head. Big difference, the opposition batting average. For Bettis, the opposition about 311, and for Kazmir about 240. So here's Qualls, and the opposition is hitting .324 against him. He is 38 years old, facing Howie Kendrick. You have Turner down the line from third. Gonzalez at first, 1 out. Dodgers lead 3-0. Qualls, facing Howie Kendrick, was born in Lomita. Spent a lot of time as a youngster coming to Dodger Stadium, and grew up a Dodger fan. Well, here he is trying to get some outs. Fastball right to right. Gonzalez on his horse. It's going to short hop the fence. Turner scores. Stopping at third is Gonzalez on a double by Kendrick. And the Dodgers are now breathing easily, leading 4-0 at the expense of the Colorado bullpen. And for young Germain, by any other name, a disastrous appearance. So Gonzalez goes to third. Turner brings in the second run of the inning. Dodgers 4 runs, 9 hits. Scott Van Slyke is now going to come up and bat for Blanton. So it's been a good night for Dave Roberts. Baez now might be brought in instead of Kenley, with the Dodgers leading by 4. Infield has to play up with 1 out, and here's Van Slyke. And a strike. Oh, and 1. The veteran Chad Qualls, originally signed by the Astros way back in 2000 out of the University of Nevada. He'll be 38 in August. blocked that time. 1-2. One ball and two strikes. And a high fly ball into deep left center. Going to the wall is Barnes to make the catch. The runners tag up. The throw comes into third too late. Gonzalez scores, and the Dodgers lead 5-0. Scotty came so close to a home run. As it is, he picks up a run batted in. So 5-0 Dodgers. Nice play by Brandon Barnes. And the batter is Trayce Thompson. That run is charged to German. 3 runs in the inning, all charged to the right-hander, who pitched to Adrian Gonzalez with first base open and a right-hand batter on deck. There's only one person who made that decision, and I'm sure he would tell you chapter and verse. It was Walt Weiss. And Gonzalez took advantage of the at-bat, single to right. 2-0 the count. Check swing. 5 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits for the Rockies. Last 2 innings, the Dodgers have scored 4 times to break open what was a very tough 1-0 game. 2 runs against De La Rosa, 3 against Germain. Fouled away. When the Rockies come up in the 9th inning, and they came so close in the 8th, they were trailing at the time 2-0. And Blackman with 2 outs, single and stole second. It was up to Adames to extend the inning and let Arenado come up, but he couldn't do it. And then the Dodgers just broke it open here in the bottom of the 8th. Trayce Thompson playing center. Jock Peterson on the DL. Trayce has walked, grounded to short, flied to left. Thompson's fly ball to left field resulted in that great throw by Brandon Barnes, and Puig being tagged out at the plate and hurting his left shoulder in the slide. 3-2. Grandal on deck. Ground ball to short. Adames. That'll be that, but that for the Dodgers, 3 huge runs. And at the end of 8, Dodgers lead 5-0. ninth inning. Dodgers make two changes. Van Slyke, who batted for Blanton, who was hitting in Puig's spot. Van Slyke stays in the game and plays left field. Pedro Baez will go into Howie Kendrick's spot. Kendrick had a single and a double in the game tonight. And it's up to Baez now, facing Arenado, Gonzalez, and Reynolds. That would be the heart of the Rockies lineup. But it's a lot different facing them 5-0 as opposed to 1-0. Arenado has struck out twice and flied to left. Gonzalez has struck out, lined out, and flied out. And Reynolds has struck out twice. So the heart of the lineup is not beating. And the Dodgers are leading 5-0. Rockies have just 3 hits. Rockies had 2 hits against Bud Norris, who struck out 8, walked 1, and hit a batter. And Baez ready to face Nolan. Nolan went 0 for 3 against Norris, 2 strikeouts and a fly ball. Right. Baez, a big man, 6'2", 230 pounds, 28 years old, signed by the Dodgers 2007. 1 ball and 1 strike. Arenado, the lad from Lake Forest. Fastball. Arenado came into the game hitting .296, 21 home runs, 65 runs batted in, and rather remarkable, in well over 300 plate appearances, about 350, he had only struck out 41 times. But tonight, Norris nailed him twice. Two and two. Oh, wow, 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So Arenado strikes out 3 times tonight.
Carlos Gonzalez.
That was a high fastball out of the strike zone. 1 down. Here's Gonzalez. Ball 1. Carlos struck out, lined out, flied to left. Everybody in the world who follows baseball certainly knows Baez throws hard. He has struck out 43 and walked 11. Almost 4-1. 1-2. So Carlos, who had such a tough series, almost unbelievably tough for a flyaway of his caliber, and Dodgers trying to make him go 0 for 4 tonight. 2-2. The man from Maracaibo in Venezuela. Two and two. Foul back. Carlos kind of already took a stride. He was guessing fastball and he kind of hung out over the plate. And then he looked back after fouling it off. He was almost locked in. Two and two. Gonzalez, remember, in the last series here, he was 1 for 12 with 10 strikeouts. So that would mean he is 1 for 15 with 11 strikeouts in his last 4 games here. Three and two. And you walked him. So Baez gives up the walk. Mark Reynolds, the batter. Reynolds struck out twice and walked. Five runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits for the Rockies. 7th meeting of the year. They've each won 3. Rockies came in here with a 2-game losing streak. Baez, should he start noodling around now and letting somebody else get on, so the Dodgers get Kenley Jansen up just in case. No balls, 1 strike. Foul ball. Chad Bettis tomorrow night up against Scott Kazmir. And then what should be a big story. First of all, it was a big story tonight to have Bud Norris be absolutely brilliant for 6 innings. 2 hits, striking out 8, no runs allowed. Well, on Sunday, Jonathan Gray will go up against Brandon McCarthy. 0-2. Giants won their game. They beat Arizona 6-4. Fastball, and Reynolds strikes out a 3rd time. So with 2 down, the batter is Daniel Descalso, who singled, walked, and struck out. The numbers 3, 4, and 5 hitters in the Rocky lineup. Arenado struck out 3 times, Gonzalez once, and Reynolds 3 times. That's 7 strikeouts in the heart of the lineup. 2 out. There goes the runner. Defensive indifference. Gonzalez standing at second base. No balls, 1 strike. And a 1-hopper. Utley on the grass will make the play. Nice stretch by Adrian Gonzalez to get the last out. So the Dodgers came home knowing that Clayton Kershaw was going on the DL. Started the so-called mystery man for the Dodgers, Bud Norris, and he was absolutely brilliant and certainly deserved the player of the game honors. Bud went 6 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. So the Dodgers get home, stay even with the Giants, who won their game. Dodgers continue to trail by 6, but boy, what a lift they got from Bud Norris. Tomorrow night, it'll be Bettis and Kazmir in Game 2, and it will also be the 8th meeting between the two teams. So that'll do it for tonight. Dodgers win it 5-0. We'll talk to you tomorrow evening. Until then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.